Tonight I'm doing some brown and butter basted steak. First and foremost, what you want to do is you want to blot your steak dry with some paper towel, removing the excess moisture, blood, because you will not get a good sear on your steak if you don't. And the whole key here is to get a good sear on your steak. You want a brown crust on the outside. After that, you want to turn your cast iron skillet to relatively high heat. Let that heat up while you prep your steak. All I'm doing is sea salt. You want to cover it with a good amount of salt. The bigger the steak, the more salt you use. And don't worry about if salt's in between, because we will be rolling the crust in that. And then some fresh ground black pepper. What I like to do is push it in, because it does tend to fall off. So if you push it in your steak, it will stick on. Flip it over. And repeat. Choice is yours whether or not you want to leave the fat cap on or off. It will render down. What I like to do is get the edges all on there. Okay, so as your pan has time to heat up, we are cooking with grass-fed butter, avocado oil, some rosemary, some thyme, and some garlic. So the point of this is you're going to be cooking your steak pan fry, and then you're going to throw in the garlic, rosemary, thyme towards the end. This way you don't burn it. So you let it heat up to a good temperature. You add some avocado oil. Just enough to cover the bottom. Avocado oil because it has a low smoke point, and I like it better than, high smoke point. A little bit more. Make sure it's nice and hot, because you want a good sear on the crust. So in order, what you're going to do, you're going to get a good crust in your steak, flip it a few times, then you add in the butter while it's crusting. It infuses itself within the crust of the steak. It makes it for a nice soft texture. Then towards the end of the cooking time, you add in your garlic, rosemary, and thyme, and then it infuses with flavor. So your oil is hot enough now. So you take the first steak. You always want to lay it again away from you. Never lay it towards you for oil splashes. A good way to tell how you want your steak done is I use a finger test. So put these two fingers together. That's rare, that's medium, and that's well done. So I will literally do mine medium. I will press this on this part of my palm, and I will press the steak to see what part and where and how it feels. Okay, first steak on. Make sure you get a good even coat of oil under it. So that's what you want to hear. You want to hear that sizzle. You want to leave it for a bit. Make sure it doesn't stick. Move that oil around a little bit. Lift it up. Just put some oil under it. So you can cut some knobs of butter. You can add a few pieces in. Let that melt. Be generous with it. Don't worry. The more the merrier. I usually do about 4 knobs of butter. Let that all melt. Let that get on the steak. As it's cooking, grab yourself a big spoon. Move that off to the side. Keep moving around the butter. You don't want it to burn, but you want it brown, because there is a difference. You get ready to flip. Once again, when you flip, lay it in away from you, not towards you. Get a good base going. So you want that rendering of fat. You want that dark caramelized color. And what you start to do now is you tilt the pan, you collect that butter, and you literally base it on your steak. And you will see as you lay the butter on, it's nice and hot, it will actually continue to keep cooking the steak. You let it get a nice golden crust. Let that cook for a few minutes. Now, if you don't like that fat cap, you want direct heat on that fat cap. You want to render that down. You don't want it to stay on there full, because it's going to be really, really chewy. And if you're not a fan of fat, then you definitely don't want it like that. So what I do is I turn my steak right on the pan. Let that render down for a minute or two. And as you can tell from pushing the pepper into the steak, it actually sits in there as it cooks. You want to flip it. When you flip it, you can add more butter if you want. When you flip it down, same thing. Taste that butter. And now you add in 2 cloves of garlic. Watch out for the rosemary, thyme, sorry. It will crack a little bit. A little bit of rosemary in there. That infuses the butter with flavor. Make sure you keep basting that. Add a little bit more butter. You don't want that butter to burn. Try to keep moving as much as you can. Now you have that infused butter. On the flip. That's what you want. You want that whole charred outside. You want that crispy skin on the outside. So you sit there, let it cook. Keep basting. You don't want that steak to dry out. You want it constant. Pour butter over it. And they call it brown buttering because the butter is literally brown. Now, time to check now, see if it's done. So what I usually do is I don't burn this myself, I just pull a little bit off. Do the finger test. That is fair, medium, and well done. So that's about medium. Make sure both sides have that nice crust going. Make sure all that fat is rendered out. And that's basically ready to go. Let the excess fall out. All I'm doing here is I'm searing all the edges, locking all the flavor. And that is how you do brown butcher steak.